Welcome my friends, welcome back to Project TAS. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you've watched any of my previous videos, thank you for returning to my channel. Today we're doing another Blake 7 review. This time we're doing a review for the whole of Season 1 before we move on to the first episode of Season 2. As always, I will point out that this review will inevitably touch upon certain plot elements of Season 1 and may even reveal developments for the series of Blake 7 as a whole. So if you haven't seen any episodes from this season or anything else in terms of Blake 7, a huge spoiler alert is in order in case you wish to do a bit of Blake 7 catch-up prior to watching this review. You have been warned. Right, let's get to it, shall we? At the end of the season finally, the debut 13 episodes of Blake 7 have amassed a total of 19 stars. I would say out of a possible 52, but that was never going to happen, given the stingy scoring system I'm using. In terms of high-scoring episodes, Project Avalon scores the perfect 4, Spacefall and Seek, Locate, Destroy get 3. In terms of the worst, I'm looking at Time Squad. Breakdown isn't that much better, although there are certain aspects that are quite good. The web doesn't add anything to the Blake 7 arc, and it's immensely boring in places. Mission to Destiny is reasonably entertaining, if unforgivably stupid in certain areas. I'm not saying you have to be unforgivably stupid in order to enjoy it. As I said, I did actually quite enjoy it. It's just that there are certain elements that are overlooked, shall we say, and the guest cast are a little wooden. The rest of the series is pretty gosh darn good if you average it all out. And despite the fact that ideas were already starting to run thin by the end of the series, we still enjoy the ride we're on with this intrepid bunch. The reason why ideas were drying up by the end might have something to do with the fact that Terry Nation was the sole writer behind all 13 episodes. Well, he enjoyed sole writing credit anyway. Script editor Chris Boucher evidently helped a lot more as time went on, noticeably contributing a huge chunk to the script for Bounty. As for whether any other writers were involved in helping Terry Nation reach the end of the series in terms of the script writing, I don't know. It is a little disconcerting, though, that since this was Mr. Nation's creation, he found himself running out of inspiration for it around the 2/3 to 3/4 mark of the debut season. Did he envision that it would continue for 3 seasons onwards, or was this supposed to be a one-time thing? Who can say? All I know is that Mr. Boucher's contribution was required to the smooth sailing, if it was ever smooth sailing, for the writing of the series and getting it up to the finish line. But for all the faults, this first season didn't just get Blake 7 off the ground, it propelled it. Immensely popular. Given the star allocation I've given it, I wonder if Season 1 is actually my favourite. It contains a number of episodes I'm very fond of, and while it also has the inevitable dreck, it's arguably more consistent than some of the other seasons in terms of overall level of quality. The production was at an all-time low for Season 1, it must be said. More animation and cardboard cutouts than we would ever see again in future seasons. Not that this would be the last we would see of them, unfortunately, but they are much more noticeable here. However, as the series that established everything, it does its job pretty well. If anything, it actually needs to force the story along in some regard. The opening 4 episodes introduce us to everyone, and very much follows the same chronological path. In fact, we could follow their story all along the opening 2/3 of the season. It's only when we get to Project Avalon as well as Bounty, episodes 9 and 11 respectively, it's suddenly established that Blake has been arranging things off screen when he's suddenly rescuing Avalon and then he's after President Sarkov. Maybe forced is the wrong word to use in terms of the plot, but I would suggest that it's clear that the writers and production staff were trying to move past the introductory section and get on with the adventure, and I can't say I blame them. Although the introductory story, the fact it takes so long, I think is one of the strengths of the season. We spend 4 episodes officially introducing everyone, and just as we think we're good to move on, we're then having to introduce Servalan and Travis. Not that this was a bad thing, if anything, these episodes with the evil pair are amongst the best of the season. It's shortly after we've had a few of those Blake against Travis and Servalan stories that things start to get a little bit muddled. 2 or 3 plots needed to make up one episode, script editor Boucher needing to add his voice, but like I say, these are pretty entertaining as well. In terms of the characters, it's a little difficult to judge, since the characters pretty much remain true to who they are throughout. My Season 2 review may provide a new slant on this, but by and large, everyone we meet the first time is very similar to who they are by the end, albeit a little stronger, more established in terms of what we know about them, what they can do, etc. The only possible exception to this could be Callie, and this is something I've mentioned before. If you took away her first appearance in Time Squad, it could be argued that she is the same character throughout Season 1, But regrettably, Time Squad is in the mix, and that's not just regrettable because of its portrayal of Callie, it's because of the limited quality of the episode. But I've also gone over this already as well, in my Time Squad review no less. Callie's completely different, a warrior, hardened soldier. There's very little footage of her in Time Squad not carrying that weapon. If I hadn't watched the episodes to follow Time Squad, and I was told that this guerrilla fighter was going to end up as the communications operator on the Liberator, I would have assumed someone was holding about 10 guns to her head, forcing her to do this. It's not a disappointing intro for Callie. The rest of Season 1 could just be seen as a disappointing follow-up. Only Bounty shows up a bit of Callie's prior life as a hands-on soldier, and also we get very little in terms of her telepathic ability as well. While Callie's character is somewhat inconsistent, at least she is a character. Just because she is a character doesn't mean that she has character, to paraphrase Winston Wolfe from the film Pulp Fiction. Well, Callie does have character. Unfortunately, in the case of Gan, I don't know if this is entirely true. I've already touched upon this in my Spacefall review. David Jackson was a fine actor, and he managed to give Gan a certain presence. But Gan just didn't add anything to the core of Blake 7. He could make up the numbers of an away team, and he wouldn't be entirely useless either. It's just the one episode that seems to be centered on him isn't really centered on him. And even if it was, he spends most of Breakdown either smashing things up or tranquilized. In fact, if you want to see a Season 1 episode where Gan seems to be a little bit more involved, or at least his character seems to be a little bit more rounded, and someone we actually are interested in following, I suggest Cygnus Alpha. He's the leader of the prisoners, they all look up to him, he obviously shows indications of his intelligence and smarts under certain circumstances, and in addition to the inevitable strongman stuff he was relied upon, he also gets a little female attention from the only female inhabitant on the planet. This is about as good as it got for Gan. He sort of coasted along in Season 1, very much a yes man to Blake. But, spoiler alert, when he died about the third way along Season 2, I don't think it's unfair to say that while Gan was killed off, nothing was lost to Blake 7. I may have been wrong and was probably unfair when I implied during my Spacefall review that Gan's character hurt Blake 7, but unfortunately this is because of his limited influence on the show. Look, there's no point in repeating this point in differently phrased sentences. Gan isn't that good a character. That's no fault of David Jackson, there just wasn't enough development for him. The other four characters that we see on the Liberator are easily the more established, although I wouldn't say it was as close as call as to who the majority of people would say is their favourite character. But again, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments section. Blake starts off as the one we follow, and he very much dictates where we go and what we do. Where Blake goes, we follow, although we may find ourselves siding with one of the others as to the wisdom of some of Blake's decisions and actions. Either way, Blake isn't necessarily a character that I think would top the favourite polls, although he is a very good leader for us to follow, and Gareth Thomas does a very good job as the man we follow during this adventure. In addition to Blake not necessarily topping the favourites polls, neither would Jenna in my opinion. Blake 7 should be championed for its portrayal of women, not perfect, nowhere near it, but given the attitudes towards the female of the species during the 70s and 80s as well, it's a breath of fresh air, even when compared to today's heroines in fairness. And Jenna epitomises this, just like Callie does. She's strong-willed, she's her own person, she doesn't need the others to survive, and she can stand up for herself. And yet she also becomes too much of a Blake yes woman. In the pilot episode, she scolds Blake during their first scene together. From then on, she's so much softer towards him, more willing to be led. I know there was always meant to be this underlying romance between Jenna and Blake, but even then, you'd have thought she would have told Blake off more for some of the stuff he got up to. In fact, compared to Jenna and Blake, I think people prefer Callie's character. Am I right? Are they right? Again, let me know in the comment section. The two characters that I would suggest are the heart and soul of Blake 7 are Avon and Villa. Both are complete opposites in terms of their standpoints, their mannerisms, the way they conduct themselves, but both are endearing to us as well. My personal favourite is Avon. So cool, so evil, and yet so much a goodie. He is the perfect foil to Blake, and the constant interactions between them are the best we get between the main characters. Villa perhaps gets the best lines though. He's easily the most human of the characters, the most vulnerable and scared, but also the more carefree, and he is able to elevate himself when he needs to. A couple of characters that were full of development and intrigue are our aforementioned evil people, Servalan and Travis. The episode Seek, Locate, Destroy was meant to be Servalan's only appearance. The fact that she was seen in 3 more episodes afterwards in Season 1 and was an ever-present recurrer for the rest of the series says plenty about the writing and Jacqueline Pearce's portrayal of this character. Another example of strong female characters as well, by the way. Travis is just as memorable, hence why he lasts for 2 series, but that's only a good thing up to the end of Season 1 in my humble opinion. As I have stated in my Aurak review, Stephen Greaves is the vastly superior Travis to Brian Croucher's interpretation. It would probably have been wiser for Travis to be killed and Croucher to play a different character altogether. Spoiler alert, perhaps this is why he was killed at the end of Series 2. They realised by this point that keeping Travis on board was the equivalent of flogging a dead horse. But that's all in Season 2, where the Project TAS review bus will be driving to next. I hope you've enjoyed these reviews of Blake 7 Season 1 and are looking forward to the reviews for Season 2. Thank you very much for your views and for your comments and for your continued support. It is very much appreciated. Please leave your comments, opinions and interpretations of the episodes below. Please give a like to this video and click the subscribe button. And I will see you all next time. Cheerio!